A few times a year, Valve runs a week-long digital event they call Steam Next Fest, featuring demos of yet-to-be-released games on the Steam platform. Do you love to discover new, interesting, and unique games, but you don't want to sit through hours of advertisements only to walk away with a few pre-rendered cinematic trailers for games that won't be out for years? Then Next Fest is perfect for you, because not only can you see what teams of creators both big and small are cooking up, you can actually play these games for yourself. The only problem, of course, is that there are tons of games featured in these festivals, and while Steam does a decent job of curating them for you, with the ability to sort by categories like genre or games you've already wishlisted, the amount of demos out there can still be pretty daunting. So for this Next Fest, let me do all the work for you. That's right, consider this series to be the video form of a hot new gaming magazine. One that you buy from the grocery store, rip open, throw in the trash, and get to the part that actually matters, the demo disc. This is the Next Fest Demo Disc Winter 2024 edition, a collection of demos from a wide variety of genres, playstyles, and art styles, curated by someone with good taste, me. I've played over 50 demos over the last week, each for at least 10 minutes and up to an hour max, and although I'd love to talk about every single one, I'm going to narrow things down and tell you about 11 of them that I'm most excited for in alphabetical order. So free up some hard drive space, reinstall that old DVD drive you haven't used in years, and get that wishlisting finger prepped, cause it's time to pop in that demo disc. The survival crafting genre has arguably reached a point of oversaturation, to the point that I'm expecting some people will groan upon realizing that I'm even including one of these in my list, but hear me out on this one. Abiotic Factor asks and answers one simple question. Whatever happened to all of those goofy scientists that Gordon Freeman left trapped in Black Mesa?
It's good to see you.
And in doing so, delivers a unique survival game with a lot of personality. The demo begins with character creation, allowing you some level of customization, but only so much that you're stuck with a dorky schlub no matter what you choose, which is great. You're driven off to Abiotic Factor's version of Black Mesa, the Gate Facility, this time located in Australia.
Okay, you're the transfer, huh?
Where you'll be given a brief overview of the game's mechanics by a few of your pleasant coworkers.
Staff at Cascade need to understand the facility's unique power system. It goes into a lot of detail only an egghead would want. No offense.
Before the ubiquitous experiment gone wrong goes wrong, and you're trapped inside to fend for yourself. Or fend for yourselves in this case. Abiotic Factor is fun solo, but like most games in this genre, it's more fun with friends. Oh, he's still throwing up! You're covered in vomit!
Yeah.
Something doesn't agree with me.
Wait, did you eat it too?
He puked in my mouth.
Oh,
you
now
serious?
you're sick? That's so funny, dude.
Dude, did you throw up
Did
in your
someone get a
mouth like
flashlight?
those?
For me, there's a few interesting things that set Abiotic Factor apart from your Arks or your Valheims. One is the gate facility itself. Whereas other games give you a wide open landscape to conquer, here we have a massive enclosed structure containing a variety of usually mundane sub-areas. Offices, warehouses, kitchens, lobbies, all the places you'd expect to find in an underground government facility. You won't be punching any trees to get what you need here. Instead, you'll be stripping computers down for parts, spending your last few dollars on vending machine cookies to sustain yourself, and tearing apart conference rooms to secure a safe living space. All of this theming gives the game a ton of personality in a genre that's so often lacking it. I particularly love the blueprint system, where your character will get the kernel of an idea of how to build something, and then you'll have to work out the rest for yourself.
Oh, interesting.
The biggest difference, though, is the way that you or your group make progress through the game. While exploring, you'll meet NPC characters who require your help, giving you surprisingly concrete goals to work towards. These quests end up feeling more like something out of an immersive sim, as the ways you can go about meeting these goals is quite freeform. Upon creating your character, you'll be asked to choose from a starting pool of archetypes, as well as a list of traits that you'd like to specialize in, not unlike something like Deus Ex or Fallout. In just the few hours that we played, it was nice to feel like we had more varied goals to work towards that required some thinking outside the box, rather than the get stronger to kill next boss structure that so many of these kinds of games have. Though Abiotic Factor does still have some bosses too. Yeah!
Fuck.
Alright, let's get that knife out.
Oh, he's sliding. Cut him quick. Cut him quick.
Oh, his skull, no! I definitely recommend checking this one out, even if you aren't usually a fan of this genre, as I think it does do enough differently that it might just click for you.
The facility is currently at alert level precautionary.
So I'm stretching the rules just a bit here because AMYGDALA Prelude is not technically part of the Next Fest, but it's a very recent demo for an upcoming horror game that I think really deserves some attention, so I'm making it an honorary Next Fest participant for the purposes of this video. AMYGDALA won me over immediately, from the menu screen, for two reasons. Firstly, the vibes here are seriously incredible. I can't overstate how good this looks and sounds. The color scheme, the gentle waves of the ocean passing by, the music, it's so good. Very Blue Velvety. Secondly, Source Engine, baby! AMYGDALA begins with a seemingly simple task: locate Dr. Kurtz, as explained by our journal, which cleverly acts not only as our objective screen, but also as our health meter and inventory. To do so, we'll be exploring his family estate Resident Evil style, with all of the key finding, puzzle solving, and equipment gathering that entails. There's no map to guide you here, but you won't miss it. The mansion itself is wonderfully designed, with distinct rooms and plenty of those great classic survival horror aha moments where you'll find a key or item you've been looking for and remember just where you need to take it. There's some rooms here with absolutely killer atmosphere that I couldn't help but stand around and take it all in. The Source Engine is truly special, seriously. This is a horror game, of course, but AMYGDALA lets you know in the opening screen that they won't be jump scaring you with any loud sounds or mean startlings. As much as I'm of the opinion that jump scares can be really fun, I appreciate the upfront honesty here. Oh, and they are not kidding about the arachnophobia warning here. In fact, if you're someone that is really freaked out by spiders, you may want to skip this next little bit. This is another game that takes place in Australia, and it's not helping my view of it as a spider-infested nightmare island. Really though, like real spiders, these are, despite being truly horrifying to look at, more scared of you than you are of them, and they'll mostly leave you alone. The same can't be said for the hybrids. These big, dopey, once human-turned fish people inhabit the mansion and will be your main adversaries while trying to uncover the fate of Dr. Kurtz and unravel the conspiracies of the cult that took over his estate. I wasn't sure what to expect going into it, but this story is going some really interesting places that I don't want to give away too much of. AMYGDALA, for me, walks the perfect balance of silly and genuinely scary that so much of my favorite horror media does, and I really cannot recommend enough that you give it a try. It's punching way above its weight class, and is probably my most anticipated horror game at this point. Changing gears completely, our next demo on the docket is Balatro, a poker-inspired roguelike game. Now if you heard that string of words and your brain shut down immediately, I get it. I have less than zero interest in poker. It's never clicked for me, I've never understood it. I've always done everything possible to avoid it in bigger games where it's relegated to mini status within them. I'm just not interested. Balatro has absolutely won me over though, and as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm gonna play more. Fortunately, I think that my absolute baby brain level understanding of poker is a perfect perspective to approach writing about this game from, because Balatro does an excellent job of explaining poker basics and its own unique systems it has layered on top. For one, the game has a great, clean aesthetic and UI that keep everything super legible without coming across overly dry like a lot of standard deck of playing card-based games can. I really love these abstract backgrounds. Reminds me of those wallpapers you'd see all over DeviantArt back in the day. The demo opens with a great tutorial teaching you the basics of how the game plays, step by step. Essentially, each round is played against a blind, requiring you to score a minimum number of chips within a given amount of hands in order to progress. A hand is played using the rules of poker, which is helpfully available to you at all times on the left here. So if, like me, you couldn't remember all of these if your life depended on it, you'll not only have them listed here for you, but placing the cards down will give you a preview of what you're playing before you actually commit. The first round is easy enough, but the roguelike twist comes in between rounds, where you'll be able to purchase various game-changing cards using your winnings from previous rounds. In Balatro, jokers work essentially like passives in other roguelikes, applying various effects that can change how you play and strategize. For example, this joker gives +4 multiplier to any heart suit cards you play. Multiplier is just what it sounds like, taking your card's chip values and multiplying them, making for moments of huge value plays that feel amazing when you hit them. Also found within these shops are tarot cards, which act as your consumable items that have fun temporary effects, like adding 1 to the value of chosen cards, or granting money based on the sell value of your jokers. There's also planetary cards, which give a flat upgrade to a given hand type, allowing you to further strategize around playing certain types of hands. You can even buy normal or special versions of standard playing cards, like this glass type that not only looks cool, but provides a multiplier when played, albeit with a 1-4 chance for the card to be destroyed. Balatro is just an excellently designed game all around, and although it seems to be getting a lot of buzz around it lately, I really wanted to include it here to say that even if poker is not your thing, I really think you should give it a try. It might surprise you as much as it surprised me. Something I'm loving about a lot of media recently is an embracement of edgelord aesthetics in a non-ironic way. Like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a game where you had psychic powers to maneuver a single bullet that you used to kill a bunch of murderous cultists while wearing a joker-fied mask and a cross necklace, and you got scored for how cool you made it look, all within a high-contrast, neon-dripped aesthetic? Yeah, it would be cool, and we have Children of the Sun to prove it. Children of the Sun is like if you took that scene from Mandy where a drugged-out Red is camping out in the bushes and waiting to snipe those Cenobite guys, but extrapolated it to an entire game. There's actually a lot of aesthetic similarities to that movie here, from the animated sequences to the harsh, distorted guitar riffs punctuating the start and end of each stage. The very first thing I wrote in my notes was, "This is evil, hell yeah." And yeah, the whole thing is really dripping in this vibe that I can only describe as edgy evil coolness. At first glance, Children of the Sun looks like a kind of third and first-person shooter hybrid, but that isn't quite right. We play as an unnamed character who creeps in the dark around the perimeter of the hideouts of aforementioned cultists, only moving left or right, marking targets and looking for the perfect shot. The twist, though, is that although we only have 1 shot to take per stage, we regain control of said shot once it hits a target, leading to a sort of puzzle-like style of gameplay where your performance is graded based on various factors. In between stages, you'll catch glimpses of the story, seemingly memories of our protagonists, delivered through hand-drawn animated cutscenes, setting up their unique abilities and the start of their revenge tour through the cultist compounds. This is one of those games that you'll probably know instantly if it's for you or not, so if you took one look at this and went, hell yeah, then definitely download this and give it a try. Cryptmaster, on the other hand, is a hard one to parse at first. Cryptmaster is a first-person dungeon crawler in the traditional sense, where your adventuring party is slapped onto a grid-based map, and you move from space to space while looting chests, fighting enemies, and solving puzzles. Outside of the beautiful hand-drawn-like art, there's one other big change to the usual dungeon crawling formula, in the form of the titular Cryptmaster himself. See, your party's already dead, and they're trapped in the Cryptmaster's realm. They've forgotten all that they knew in life, even their own names, and it's up to you and your vocabulary to help them remember. Find a chest? Easy enough. Let's type chest here and open it up.
Oh look, it's a thing.
The issue is remembering what's inside. To do that, you'll have to type out what you want our skeletal Darth Maul boy here to do to provide you with clues as to what the object is. Look, feel, even smell or taste. He's a nasty little freak, and he's happy to do any of them.
Yeah, it's old and dusty. And the inside, papery.
After you use up your tries, you'll have to make a final guess as to what the object is. If you guess incorrectly, you get nothing. Guess correctly, however, and you'll get not only the object, but any letter found in the name of the object gets added to these spaces next to your character's portraits. These spaces represent an ability that the character could perform in their past life, and you'll have to guess these too if you want any hope in combat. Combat in Cryptmaster is really neat too, acting a bit like an RPG spin on something like Typing of the Dead. Just type out what you want to do and hit enter. This all plays out in real time too, so there's a fun element of typing speed and memorizing what appears to be a huge amount of possible actions. Some enemies will have wrenches they can throw into your keyboard though, like this lizard boy with a shield that blocks all words containing the letter B, making my poor jab-only thief here completely useless in this fight. I definitely struggled a bit in the beginning with this one, as it can sometimes be hard to get a feel for what the game wants you to do, but by the time I reached the end of the demo, I really wanted to try it again and see if I could do better. I almost didn't try this one, just because I made a lot of assumptions about it at first glance, but I'm glad I did, as this is one of the coolest dungeon crawlers I've played in a while. So go play it and try to do better than I did. It won't be hard.
Dab. You want me to dab.
Our next game, Death of a Wish, really impressed me. The demo opens with a pretty intense prompt. Enter the name of someone important to you, someone you would die for. Okay, easy, my perfect angel dog. Audrey. A dedication to Audrey. In your absence, time and space collapse to a single point, burning with possibility. But the flame is beginning to fade, and the new world struggles to be born. Audrey, I will not fail you. Like Children of the Sun, Death of a Wish is another great example of edginess being so back, just in a different flavor this time. Its aesthetic, that I can only describe as MS Paint Scribblecore, perfectly encapsulates those feelings you had when drawing out your badass anime OC with spiky hair, using the coolest moves, saying the coolest things, but makes it all real. Every scribble, from the characters to the UI, has this manic emo energy to it that just rules. Look at this map. So good. I think at a glance, the game looks a bit hard to make out, but actually getting your hands on it, it's immediately apparent how good this combat feels. There's obvious Souls comparisons to be made here, dodging and parrying, heavy and light attacks. There's bonfire-like rest points where you level up as well. Definitely won't be surprised when this shows up in an Iron Pineapple video. Rather than different weapons, Death of a Wish has unique fighting styles that you can switch to whenever you want, even mid-combo. Each style scales differently with different stats and comes with different abilities that you can charge by holding the attack button. Parrying enemies and breaking their guard just feels so good here. And clearing the final enemy in each room even gives you this amazing anime-ass final pose flourish. It owns. The writing here is fun too, with a great balance of genuinely intriguing world building and earnestly angsty characters that aren't overly cheeky about it like a lot of games doing this kind of thing. This is one that I stopped playing early just because it's so good that I just want to wait and experience the full game. If you're into action RPGs or just enjoy the vibe of this game, you really need to check it out. This next fest felt a little lighter on FPS than I was expecting, but I did find one great gem that I feel deserves some attention. Echo Point Nova is the next game from the creators of Severed Steel, one of the coolest FPS games of the last few years. Echo Point Nova is a pretty strange game, taking an almost Breath of the Wild-like structure and inserting the ridiculously fast-paced shooting gameplay of Severed Steel, then making it even faster by giving you a hoverboard to ride on. The demo does a decent job of easing you into all of this, starting you inside a small room with just a pistol, and slowly handing you mechanics as you progress. Double jump boots, new weapons, abilities like a tornado you can place to throw you upwards, and even a sledgehammer that you can use to destroy nearly any surface in the game. Traversal's a huge part of the game. It's like one giant Counter-Strike surf map, but much more intuitive. Heck, the last boss of the demo is even somewhat of a traversal puzzle itself, requiring you to surf, jump, and grapple around its massive body to destroy its weak points, all while taking down additional enemies. Zipping around this huge world on your hoverboard, slowing down time to take perfect no-scope 360 sniper shots, it all looks and feels like a fake FPS game they made to show for a few seconds on a low-budget TV show.
What are you doing? Level 4.
Yet somehow it all really works for me. Don't let the somewhat dissonant art style dissuade you, this one is a lot of fun. There's this idea that the immersive sim is a cursed genre, and with projects being cancelled left and right, it can be hard not to see it that way. I deeply hope that Fragmented City can make it to the finish line though, because this game is incredible so far. As much as the genre tends to conjure up deep, dark conspiracies and high stakes, Fragmented City is pleasantly mundane. You'll create and name a bird person of your choosing and wake up for a normal day in your apartment. Your friend, girlfriend, neighbor, Leah, leaves you a note suggesting you see the pawnshop owner, Cody, to look for a job. You're new in town after all. This is about all of the direction you're given, and after grabbing your keys and some change from your room, you're more or less free at this point to do what you want within the bird-themed city of Hawkfield. Fragmented City's simplistic and attractive art style looks great, but also suits the genre really well. Objects and people that you can interact with tend to be bright yellow or red, and stand out clearly amongst the muted blue tones of the city, even from a distance, giving you plenty of opportunity to spot something that might be worth investigating. Of course, you could go right to Cody and deal with that job, but as is usual with these kinds of games, it's very easy to get distracted by the inhabitants of the city. You could search for Lori, the lost pet of someone in your apartment building who's maybe not as lost or as much of a pet as she's claimed to be. You could spare some change for a local homeless bird who tells you about the city's history and his lost brother Rufus. Or you could climb some ladders, crawl through some vents, and find one of the Fragmented, a bird who escaped the local cult whose posters are plastered throughout the city. You'll have a huge list of notes in your pad before long, and it's up to you to decide how or if you'll deal with all of these issues. Despite a lot of light bits of humor, there's a great melancholy vibe to this one overall. The music is quiet and chill, everyone seems to be dealing with their own problems, and just trying to get by in the somewhat rundown Hawkfield. There is a simple morality system, but I'm not sure how much that will come into play in the full game. Smashing a window, not a super nice thing to do. Helping the homeless community get food or fix their TV antenna will net you some good bird points, but hey, you can watch TV with them too. Hell yeah, you guys get Twin Peaks on this thing? This was one of the few games that I broke my 1 hour rule on because I really wanted to do everything. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to deal with Melvin here so that he'd let me tear this poster down. So if you do play this, and you absolutely should, please let me know what this man wants. If you, like me, are feeling a bit skeptical about these new Silent Hill games, Hollowbody very well might be the best place to look for your next classic survival horror fix. I mean, it ain't shy about its inspirations, clearly. The demo begins with our playable character Micah, chatting with her flying car's AI, who she cutely refers to as Beeb, as they search for someone named Sasha, when bad weather brings them crashing to the ground. Taking a Blade Runner-like future and asking, what lies beyond the city in the ruined suburbs? And answering that question with, a lot of haunted stuff, is just a really great concept and provides for a lot of striking visuals, like a large mech crashed into what used to be someone's home. As you may expect, most of the gameplay consists of exploring this dilapidated neighborhood, scavenging for any scraps of healing or combat resources you can find. Managing items, notes, and your map is done through a familiar but stylish menu system. Another cool touch is that finding bodies gives you a rundown on who the person was and how they died. Oh damn, this dude died in VR of a heart attack? What's all this stuff around him? Wait, is that combat in Hollowbody is simple if slightly clunky, which is completely fine if you ask me. Not to bring Silent Hill into this too much, but it really does feel very similar to Silent Hill 2 in particular. I'd definitely like a little more audio feedback on some of this, but I assume the lack of that is just due to this being a demo. One thing I loved though was that Micah can use her radio to pick up memories of sorts from deceased residents. These radio signals play out in these stylish, moody little scenes that I found more effective than just your usual audio log or whatever. There's puzzles too, of course. I had a good time solving this one where you have to get the combination, the inhabitant's graduation year, by using clues found throughout their apartment. There were a lot of cool horror games this Next Fest, but Hollowbody has shot to the top of my most anticipated along with AMYGDALA. Don't miss out on this one, especially if you like classic survival horror stuff. Swinging as far as possible in the other direction tonally, our next game is an intriguing mix of Stardew Valley, Factorio, and Pikmin. Oddsparks, an automation adventure, has an admittedly slow start, putting you in the shoes of a young new resident in the village of, sure, Yarnum, let's go with that. Sounds cozy, right? Like Stardew, you're given a plot of land and set forth to meet the village's inhabitants and help them with various tasks while collecting resources and building structures around your house. It takes a bit of time getting there, but things start to get interesting when we get to the automation point of this adventure. Within the woods nearby, we find our first Sparks. Sparks are essentially Pikmin with the serial numbers filed off. They'll follow you around and pick things up for you. You can toss them at objects or enemies that you'd like them to harvest, and you can even whistle to bring them back to you. It's all very cute, but the best part is that they can work your machines and carry out your tasks for you. Palworld really opened the floodgates for the enslaving small creatures genre, huh? Similar to something like Factorio's conveyor belts or drones, your Sparks will follow simple logic, allowing you to automate systems of increasing complexity. Need to refine a ton of logs into planks for your next build? Just build a woodcutting camp with a few Sparks working in it, and build a road to your sawmill. Sparks placed on the road will pick up and drop off at any stop on their way, so build a second road with a chest for them to unload into it, and that's it. You're free to go do whatever you want, while your small army of little dudes works in your stead. There's multiplayer in this one too, and while I can imagine it would be a lot of fun, I decided to just stop after an hour and wait for the full game. I love playing these kinds of games on a lazy Sunday afternoon while watching YouTube or whatever, so if any of this appeals to you, check Oddsparks out. It's a really clever mix of genres and a nice, cozy time. My goal with these Next Fest videos is, for the most part, to bring attention to games that I think are interesting and may not be on your radar. I have a feeling that Pacific Drive is going to be a huge hit, but I'm dying to talk about it anyway. If I had to pick my favorite demo out of all 50 plus that I played, this is probably it. Pacific Drive puts the players in the shoes of, and tires of, a delivery person making a delivery to the Olympic Peninsula, near the outskirts of a walled-off area known as the Olympic Exclusion Zone, the site of strange government experiments and supernatural events. Pacific Drive is played entirely in first person, both within and outside of your car, and this opening sequence does an incredible job of setting up the mood for what's to come. While driving this stormy countryside, you're caught in the wrong place at the wrong time and sucked within the walls and supernatural grasp of the Exclusion Zone. Your car becomes what's known in this zone as a remnant, an object tied to a person who enters with it and becomes an extension of yourself both within the story and from a gameplay mechanics perspective as well.
Okay. The remnants, in short, they're old objects that do all sorts of weird things. They bind themselves to people, and you're the latest victim. You and the car are inseparable now, so get acquainted.
You'll have full control of every element of your vehicle, and you'll have to deal with everything that entails manually. From turning the car on and off, using your windshield wipers, opening and closing doors, using the parking brake, you'll have to familiarize yourself with all of it. If this sounds complicated, it kind of is, but the game does a great job at easing you into all of it. After being whisked away, you'll set up shop in a garage that has all the tools you'll need to repair and upgrade your car how you see fit. After you replace a few tires, slap on a new door, install a fancy GPS, and pack up the trunk with supplies, it's time to hit the road for the meat of the game. I've seen people calling this an immersive sim with a car, and I think that's a pretty good way to think about it. You're tasked with collecting parts from around the countryside for an antenna, but how you do that is mostly up to you. You'll be checking your map for structures, scavenging those structures for parts, and getting back on the road. The atmosphere here is really incredible, with a day, night, and weather cycle that shifts each drive from feeling treacherous to relaxing. The car really does feel like an extension of yourself, and you'll have to be mindful of where you leave it, and don't forget that parking brake. One of the first strange things you'll encounter are these floating piles of junk that want to steal your car from you. Even just 40 minutes into the game, I was attached enough to this piece of junk that I viscerally panicked when it started pulling it away. This is another demo that gets my highest compliment of, I stopped early because I just want to play the full game. My computer is absolutely ancient and it did struggle a bit with this one, so I apologize for some of the choppy footage at times. I do think the game overall seems pretty well optimized though, and it's coming to PS5 as well, so if you've got the means to play this one, you really owe it to yourself to do so. I can't recommend it enough. Wow, that was some gaming, huh? I hope you were able to find at least one game that appealed to you enough to try out a demo or wishlist it. If you played anything that I missed, please do let me know in the comments. It's a lot of fun putting these Next Fest videos together, but it's also, frankly, a ridiculous amount of work to do within a week, so if you did enjoy the video, do a little liking and or subscribing if you want to see more of them. I'm still hard at work on the next full-length video, so until then, have a good one. Bye!